Welcome back to the Combo Cabal. I'm Bryant Cook, and tonight I have a very special guest with me, Doomsday expert Max Carini, sometimes better known as Wonderpreaux. What's up, Max?
I'm really surprised that we have the name correct on audio now. It's really nice. Happy to be here.
Cool. So, Max, you've won at least a handful of games with Doomsday before. Is this correct?
Yeah, like at least a few matches. I am really good lately at just like 5-2ing challenges and missing top eight. It's a good way to lose an afternoon.
I believe you came in second in a challenge just a few weeks ago. Is that true?
Uh, Month and a half, 2 months ago, something like that.
What
It's
is
okay.
COVID time?
Yeah. Kai actually got second like a couple like no, like last week actually. Kai's been on a real tear lately.
Speaking of Kai Sawatari, the list in front of us is sort of a hybrid between your list and Kai's list, and that's what we'll be playing tonight. So Max had the wonderful idea of adding in a fifth black source in Watery Grave, which I think is super fun. Why not? Watery Grave's a sweet card. I'm playing a ton of it in Modern right now. It's going to be great. But Max, Pact of Negation is a card that I didn't really understand. You mind dropping some knowledge on that?
Sure. I guess like credit where it's due. This was actually something Kai started playing like last week, and then I just took his idea because it seemed really good, and then it was. Um, so this has to do with the Delver matchup, at least in my opinion, mostly, um, because Pact of Negation is really good at enabling you to win on the turn you cast Doomsday and go for your pile. There's an obvious application in Pact stopping Endurance, which is a newer card, Modern Horizons 2, because it puts your graveyard on the bottom. If you go for your pile and draw it and play Oracle, you can get Endurance, and then you don't win. And in fact, usually the opposite thing happens, so you pack the Endurance. But against Delver, it's also just a very low resource way to get past their Force of Will or something like that. Like just Sunday in the challenge, I played against Delver twice and won both matches, and there was a pact on my combo turn both times. It's really difficult to try and do a Doomsday pile that passes the turn to the Delver player because you cut your life in half against the Lightning Bolt, Haste creature, Dash creature, 3 power, 1 drop deck. It just doesn't really work. So with Pact of Negation, you have this really flexible, no cost way to move yourself past their disruption and try to put your whole winning sequence together in one turn. It's also how you can afford to drop Cavern of Souls because you're doing it all in one turn anyway. They don't have a chance to untap their mana, um, draw through with cantrips, and hold up bolts and pyroblast for your Oracle. You're doing it all at once. And because you can't even rely on Cavern against Bant anymore, because they have the endurance, you can kind of just drop that card for Pact of Negation.
Okay. That's a pretty good explanation. Yeah, I'm interested in casting some packs tonight. For those of you unfamiliar with this deck, Personal Tutor is mainly in the deck to get Doomsday. That said, it can also get a value Knight's Whisper if you need to. It can get the Singleton Duress or Thoughtseize. Um, yeah, it's sort of a card that ends up being pitched to the forces in the deck. Speaking of which, this deck plays the full 8 copies of Force. So there's 4 copies of Force of Will in the main deck, and then 4 copies of Force of Negation in the sideboard. I end up giving Max a hard time about this a lot. I'm not a big fan of it, but Max swears by it. It certainly makes my life more difficult. Um, the deck wins in general, if you're unfamiliar with Doomsday, by casting Doomsday and then casting a Thassa's Oracle with no library, so that way removal spells don't work. And then you draw through with cards like Ideas Unbound, Edge of Autumn, Street Wraith is over here, I guess, and then Night's Whisper. Um, is there any notable cards that you would like to discuss in the main decks, Max?
Sure. A minor thing that I would expand on with Personal Tutor and Edge of Autumn is that Edge of Autumn is the cycler you can find with Personal Tutor. So I tend to like a build of the main deck that's really dense with cantrips and Doomsdays or pseudo Doomsdays, because ideally you'd want two of that big pile of cards that finds cards or is Doomsday. So Ponder's Preordains, Personal Tutors, Doomsdays. That way you can probably get within like a cantrip's breadth of a turn two Doomsday, either by land petal Doomsday or Personal Tutor cycle Dark Red Doomsday, something like that. but there's kind of like this non-bow element where if you open with Personal Tutor and Doomsday, it doesn't look like you can do a lot, but you can use Personal Tutor to find an Edge of Autumn. That way, when you play your Doomsday, you can Edge of Autumn and start digging into your pile right away.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, Max, I'll be honest. Half the reason I wanted to have you on tonight was the super sweet tech to beat Bant right now and Endurance. Modern Horizons 2 legacy staple now is the 2008 tech of Shelldock Isle into Emrakul the Aeon's Torn. Maybe it's a little later than that. Maybe it's like 2011 tech. But regardless, we're playing it tonight. It's classic Doomsday. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so this is another thing where I'll give credit to Kai because I think the kind of like innovation engine of Kai and Martin came up with that for last Saturday's challenge. And then I took it for Sunday's challenge because I saw it online. It seemed good. Shelldock Isle Emrakul lets you have basically what you wanted Cavern of Souls to be, a kind of unimpeachably good finish to your Doomsday pile, because no counter magic works against Emrakul. Emrakul is protected against spells of color, so I think the only conceivable out in the 75 that a Bant player could have would be like Terminus Tricks or like Solitude. From there, you can just kind of keep swinging every single turn. There's a few different variations you can do if you get like the Emrakul stuck in your hand. You can brainstorm it back. You can Ideas Unbound and then discard the Emrakul and it reshuffles. There's, I guess, like a notable thing where the way Hideaway works, I believe you always beat Endurance, right? No matter how much they put in your graveyard, because you probably won't have 20 cards left. But they can stop you with a Meddling Mage naming the Emrakul. You can, like, play around that by building a pile that has Massacre or a pile that has Oracle in it or something like that. So you get a lot of resiliency, a lot of redundancy, and just this obviously good card that beats 50 plus cards out of their 75.
Okay. That makes sense to me. Max, I have a question for you. So, Max and I are in a Storm conversation chat together, and Max talked about playing possibly a bounce spell this week to get with Personal Tutor. So, there's cards like Void Snare. Tonight, we're running Consign Oblivion. Max, what is this bounce spell primarily for, and why are we running it over Nausea?
Okay, I'll cover that, but I do also want to mention the Emrakul Shelldock plan also lets you kind of cheat on sideboard cards for big creature combo decks like Show and Tell Reanimator. I don't know, you can edit this out, this doesn't matter, but you can kind of like skew your sideboard that way by having a backup plan that can't get Iona'd or that wins for a Chancellor, stuff like that. It's kind of cool, and it's also why I managed to drop like Reanimator hate without any worries. I just think that's kind of neat. Right. So on to Consigned Oblivion. So Consigned Oblivion, Chain of Vapor, and I guess Void Snare, but I've never seen anyone run that, or Echoing Truth, I guess, all kind of compete for the same slot of like, in case there's a weird permanent, I'm not drawing dead to it type of thing. If you're playing blue-black, you have access to Force of Negation, which is a 0 mana removal spell, effectively. So I tend to think that this card is something you can kind of slide by without having. But Consigned Oblivion's like a very, I guess, level 1 answer to removal, because it's very like obviously good at being searchable with Personal Tutor. But Doomsday is also a mass tutor effect, so cheaper things like Chain of Vapor can also work and can be more flexible. I think they're all like pretty close in usability, unless you wanted like a special like Silver Bullet type of removal to put into your Doomsday piles, like Hercule's Recall or like Slaughter Pact, something like that. Nausea I haven't tested particularly extensively. I decided to switch over to it because it has a lot of good, damage to elf players, which have endurance, but unlike Bant, also represent a clock and a fast combo, so it's kind of annoying there.
Okay. So one of the things that the Epic Storm did in 2018 into 2019 was we started playing Crash. And Crash was effective because we didn't have to take a turn off. It was free, that sort of idea. And Max briefly covered that in the Consign Oblivion part. But this deck's answer to effects like Chalice of the Void and Trinisphere is Force of Negation. Just don't let that stuff resolve. When you have 8 forces in your deck, you can almost guarantee, and I mean almost as in like you're like 90+% to stop that permanent from coming down on turn one, which is just really remarkable. And you're not wasting turns answering that with a bounce spell or anything like that. So the forces are great there, but they're also versatile because they can come in the combo mirror. It's just a really great tool that Doomsday offers. Max, any final thoughts before we hop in?
Yeah, I definitely agree on just the general power of Force of Negation. I like building sideboards for me always feels super cramped because they all start with 4 Force of Negation. It's just super good. It does the most lifting, most like heavy lifting of every sideboard card that isn't like some weird one of that I fold into a pile. Um, yeah, the ability to be like a preemptive crash that you don't ever have to like spend mana or commit for is really good. It's also a cancel, which comes up a lot against other combo players. Um, you can edit this out, but like we discussed about the whole like ban days, ban counter magic type of thing. I think Force of Negation is like way more egregious, and not just because like once per challenge someone has Spirit Guide for my days, and then I'm just land behind and dying. So Force of Negation is super good.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So if you end up enjoying this sweet, sweet Doomsday content featuring Max Carini, aka Wonderpreaux, hit that subscribe button down below. Support the content. We would greatly appreciate it. And if you're already subscribed, like and comment. It's a great way of getting us into that juicy YouTube algorithm. And if you would like to, keep track of your storm count, even though this isn't a storm deck, you can always pick up a mini token pack from the epicstorm.com/shop or submit a donation deck. I'm not going to show the slides. I just want to play some Magic with Max. So I will see you in round number 1. Don't go anywhere. Welcome to round number 1. Max, would you keep the 7?
I, on the blind, the kind of metric I use for evaluating hands is this about a cantrip away from a turn 2 Doomsday? And can the hand do anything else on top of that? And when I say like anything else, I mean like does it have a pedal? Does it have a cycler? Does it have protection of any sort? So this is about a cantrip away, right? So if our Preordain or our Ponder finds us a Doomsday, we can go ahead and do that. We also have a Force of Will and a Superfluous blue card and a Thoughtseize. So I'd say this is like a pretty fair keep. It's probably not great that this is the Watery Grave, that it's our one land, but I think it's okay.
I think we'll be fine. And my apologies in advance. I love to keep my sideboard open. I just love looking at our beautiful sideboard options, even when we're not playing Burning Wish.
No, it's fine. It's also good just to make sure you have the Thassa's Oracle at least one in the main deck. So keeping that open, remembering how many you have and where your win conditions are, pretty important, even when there's no Burning Wish.
For sure. One thing I wanted to ask you was, and I forgot to do it in the intro, was when you're boarding in the Shelldock Emrakul plan, do you still keep a Thassa's Oracle in the deck?
Yes. All the matchups where I would want an Emrakul, I also would probably want the ability to run Thassa's Oracle for one reason or another. Either because it's an alternate win to get past a Meddling Mage, or because I might need to pitch them to Force of Will, stuff like that.
All right, so I decided that this card was not worth countering, by the way. I just decided, like, I'm not going to Force of Will that card. Would you lead on Thoughtseize here expecting we're facing Hate Bears, or would you just ponder looking for Doomsday?
Well, I agree that we wouldn't force this because game 1, I don't think they have Force of Wills or Flusterstorms. The concern that I would have would be if they went like Cavern into Canaanist, but I think they would have led that because Sentinel and Canaanist share a creature type, right?
Yeah, so are you leading on... I mean, just which one would you cast? Would you cast Ponder or Thoughtseize?
I'm thinking we'd look for Doomsday, right? Because we can immediately pedal into Darkrit and cast our Doomsday.
This seems like a shuffle to me. I mean, land choose pretty nice, and we would get Daze, but I don't know. Maybe this isn't that bad.
Yeah, like for a miss, this is really close because we can come back and then cantrip twice next turn. So I think
I would honestly keep this.
Yeah, like this is pretty decent. Dazing Watergrave, not great. But
No, it is a combo.
we might just pitch the daze to force because we're gonna double cantrip next turn, or like cantrip plus Thoughtseize next turn.
I would like to say that this is a feature, not a bug. I think we just let that go. Also, there's a reasonable chance that we're not facing Infinity, and this is actually just Esper Hate Bears, or Esper Vile, if you like to call it that.
Yeah, I think we're definitely not playing against an Affinity opponent.
So if I was playing on my own here, Max, I think I would play Fetchland Thoughtseize and then make a decision after that next turn. Although there is some natural friction between Esper Sentinel and us giving them a card every game or every turn with wanting to Thoughtseize them.
I think it's not as bad as it seems because we could find the Doomsday right now. After the Thoughtseize, I mean.
Yeah. Alright, let's seize their thoughts. Alright, Esper Sentinel, we are not paying, and then Thoughtseize. This card's pretty good. 1 white, draw 2 cards. Do we care about this? Probably. I think I just discard like a force. Like, Jit doesn't really matter. Yeah. I'm going to make the executive decision there.
Yeah, I think this is fine. It's a little unfortunate that they've already found double force, because I don't think this is usually a game 1 Force of Negation deck.
Okay, so we shouldn't play into Daze, but next turn we can actually personal tutor. And if we want to, we could theoretically pay for the Esper Sentinel as well. It gets a little awkward if they decide to Daze, but it is there as an option. Okay, so they searched up a basic planes. Cool art, but still, why a basic? Esper Sentinel getting in there. Another one. So those are going to stack now, I believe. So if we're not paying, they're going to draw 2, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
Now they play the Jet. We know their entire hand. They played Strand.
So one issue I could see us running into at this point is that, because we're cutting our life in half and there's a Jit, we're about 2 turns away from losing.
What do you think about paying for both?
I think paying for at least one is where we want to be. I'm kind of thinking about both, though. Yeah.
So my thought is paying for one is absolutely free. If you pay for the second they daze, you can pay. And then if they daze again, you can daze.
I think that's pretty good because it also runs them out of blue cards for their force.
Yeah. All right, so 1 down. We'll pay for another. And I wonder... Ooh, they just let it go. All right. Put that sweet, sweet Doomsday on top. Feeling good about this, Max. Let's see if the opponent shows us their draw. Having perfect information last turn was pretty nice.
Is one thing to
that was annoying.
Yeah, that's kind of rough. Because they can double daze our Dark Writ. That makes some of this tough.
We also can't do it past the turn pile, so...
Right, because, well, they'll kill us next turn with Jite. So I think what we have to do is...
Do we just let them draw? Like... It stinks that our Daze doesn't do much other than just pitch to the Force.
Right.
I think we'd actually lose if we do that. So hypothetically, let's say we go Dark Ritual Doomsday. They force, we force back. We cast Preordain, we're just running into the double daze.
Right. Well, single... Oh, I guess, yeah, they can likely draw a blue card off the Sentinel.
Should we just pass the turn then? Or, yeah, I guess passing the turn is just the best option.
I think the other thing we'd consider is, do we try to play this Preordain or not?
So the downside with that is they're guaranteed going to draw a card. giving them another blue card, and this gets us into our pile. Um,
Well, it gets us into our pile at the cost of a card and a mana. What I'm thinking is, what if we can use the Preordain to find, say, a Brainstorm or perhaps a Cycler?
all right, so you want to preordain.
I think, yeah, we can do something like Preordain and then maybe pay for one of the Sentinels.
Okay.
Because I just don't see what one card we can draw that lets us put together a game-winning pile next turn when we're trying to play through Days plus Force.
A land would have given us a reasonable shot. Sure. You can draw a card. So this was actually perfect, right? So we keep Land Ponder.
Yeah, I think this is fine. It gives us we I guess kind of found ourselves in the unfortunate position of having to give them an extra draw to do this, but we've secured an extra land, which gives us wiggle room against the Days. Whereas if we had drawn, say, the Ponder next turn, our situation wouldn't have been improved. That's not good. We could have used one of those.
Okay, so Brainstorm's done resolving. Alright, so it looks like they're getting in. And I don't think that they should pump. It just doesn't make a difference here. And the opponent agrees. Fetching with damage on the stack. Okay. I guess after damage. Damage doesn't go on the stack anymore. That's how you know I'm old. So they thought they were in their second main phase. Alright, Storm 2 Ponder.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize. I forgot about Jitei's debuff ability. I think we're actually hard locked from here.
Oh, because it kills Oracle?
Yeah.
Does that matter if we just draw our deck?
Well, how are you drawing it? The problem we'll have here is that for you to draw the pile, I think you'd have to do something like Quad Cycler Oracle.
Alright, let's just, cast some spells and figure it out. We're not paying.
Yeah.
Doomsday. And technically, we can do Quad Cycle or Oracle. Like, that is on the menu. Right? No, because we need mana to cast Oracle. The Delver of Secrets.
Oh. Okay. I mean, I'll level with you. I was not expecting blue-white Delver this league. So we're kind of flat-footed there.
I'm guessing it's also a Blade variant. The JIT would suggest that there's Stoneforge Mystic and probably the new equipment, Cauldron Complete, I believe it's called. All right, so we know that our opponent still has double days. So the problem is that our cantrip is Ponder, and I don't think we can actually... Cause, in Vintage, we would need it. If this was Gush, we would just flat out win. Because it gets us 2. And we would need to, Ponder into, Ideas Unbound, which just gets dazed.
Yeah.
So... Is our out here hoping our opponent messes up with the JIT? I guess they still have double days for Oracle. It just doesn't matter. Alright, I'm going to concede.
Yeah. I guess if you wanted to assume that they would mess up their combat step, it would probably be something like Ideas Unbound into, say, LED Cycler X.
Alright, Max. How would you board for blue-white Delver? I'm assuming that Massacre comes in.
Right. I like Massacre. Defense grids are also board Delver, although I don't really know what to expect from blue-white because that's just not a common, Delver thing to encounter.
So if I was playing on my own, I would imagine that these are cards that come out. it's tough. So like maybe Night's Whisper just because it is a life total based card, and then we would need two more. To me, like the preordained sort of like a trim slot, or you could also like do like one personal tutor, one street wraith. I don't know if like these are cards you keep in this matchup just because of the life total aspect.
I think your initial thoughts are like halfway there. So I would keep at least one of Duress or Thoughtseize, because that way your personal tutors can find protection spells, which is not something they can do if you take both out. Um, because they showed us a lot of blue white and not any red, we can't it looks like, right? Like I haven't seen a third color. So it looks like we can't get punished by Ragavan hitting our discard spells. So with Thoughtseize, being able to take a Canaanist or Meddling Mage is also pretty good. Um, I do not like the idea of keeping Mystical Dispute, because trying to do like interactive protection that costs mana on the combo turn means they can just point their counters at the spell you're trying to protect. And then I like trimming a couple of forces, because they lose you life and they lose you cards in a matchup where card count is super relevant. I don't necessarily like cutting street wraiths, because it's how you break into the pile.
Yeah.
But I think to make room for the extra massacre, that's probably fine.
Okay, let's submit. We get to be on the
Um,
play though.
Correct. There's also like a play draw aspect to this, where on the draw I like taking out a daze to make room for another force or another street rave, something like that.
So this is a little bit awkward. We don't actually like. Yes, you have Doomsday. You have one land. This isn't a true cycler, but it is a cycler that gets you into your pile. So in my mind, I would probably keep this and just pray to hit a land on turn two because you have your draw step and street wraith. Would you keep?
I would feel a lot better if I just like knew there was a dark red on top, but we don't really have that luxury. I tend to be pretty speculative of keeping like one land hands against a Delver deck. We saw Wasteland, we saw two Dazes. I would think we could mulligan just because there's higher power level hands.
Okay. Very similar hand. I think I like this one just bottoming the personal tutor, and then like we can like end step brainstorm looking for something else, like another land
Yeah,
to play grid or something.
yeah, this hand seems much improved.
Okay. Misty Go. I was thinking if we draw Dark Ritual, hypothetically, like let's say we just randomly draw a blind Dark Ritual. I'm gonna brainstorm in response to this thing. Uh,
Yeah.
would you like go like Dark Ritual Grid and then like Dark Ritual Doomsday? Probably, right?
Yes. I think that's a pretty solid option.
Well, that was awkward. I think it's pretty free to daze this.
Yes.
All right, Esper Sentinel get dazed. I'm just gonna F6, and then we're gonna draw, and I believe just Dark Ritual Doomsday. There's no reason to draw through another card we can't use.
Correct. This isn't getting any better for us, so I think we just kind of go in here.
I see your daze, and I raise you a daze. Nice. All right, so let's start off with the card we know we have to put in our pile, right? Like, we have to have an Oracle. Now, Max, I am not an expert at beating Delver, so I'm going to need some assistance here.
Sure.
How would you build the rest of the pile? We have four cards.
Well, it depends on what you're kind of willing to lose to. You can probably make the read that the opponent does not have forces, or else they probably would have come into play here. We have a little bit of wiggle room against their clock because we happen to be holding the massacre. So I would say, maybe we can try to build something that doesn't end up losing to
Wasteland.
right, Wastelands. So we could do something like running out multiple lands to get this defense grid in play and having the Oracle.
So would you put like a cycle or like an edge of autumn in there now? Like we have three now, so maybe like just one card. Like I don't understand. Like what would we put as the last few?
Yes, the last few could probably be cyclers, or you could also mix in a Pact of Negation if you want to take it really slow because we're holding the Massacre.
I think I like that. So would you put Pact as the bottom card?
Could we get an island in here somewhere? Do we still have an island?
Um, yes.
Right, because then we can go island, underground sea grid, and then underground sea oracle, something like that. And we can pick, depending on whether our grid resolved or not,
All right. So
whether we.
Pact is on the bottom. I would, if I was playing on my own, I would put Edge of Autumn, Oracle, then the two lands. Um,
I
maybe
think that's fine. Yeah.
I think actually it's better to put a land because by the time we get to this, we'll have naturally drawn it, right?
Draw island, then go. Draw oracle, then go.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, that should work.
Um,
Okay.
hopefully, I'm correct.
So, like, this isn't unbreakable. They could have like mage with some backup or something annoying like that.
All right,
You get a lot of wiggle room with Massacre though, which is nice.
Playing this deck just makes me feel so anxious. Like, I'm not trying to say Doomsday is a fragile deck, but every time I play it, I feel like I'm like living on the edge. Like there's like this small thing that could go wrong, and I just get blown out.
Correct.
All right, so we're just gonna cast Grid here. Take your draw. Please resolve. Oh, that's a feel bad. So now because that got countered, I have to imagine we're going to try to wait to Oracle until we have the Pact. So our opponent's not really representing a clock either, which is sort of nice. Okay, so this represents Cauldron complete next turn, which would put us to 1.
Right. We can also Massacre next turn and pay for the Sentinel, if I'm remembering Sentinel's effect correctly, right?
Correct. They got Jit. I don't know if we care about that, right? Like, we can just... Even if they go land for Violin Jit, like, what does that do? So next turn we're drawing our land and then we can cycle in. Like, I think we just pass. Then again, it's like pretty free to Massacre this turn unless they have Meddling Mage. So I think we just pass because there's no reason to lose to Meddling Mage.
Well, I'm gonna level. I don't remember Cauldron Complete's full text. I'm just gonna take your word for it that we're not losing to it.
It has haste and it's a 5/5. Those are the relevant modes right now.
That's some pretty good text though.
Well, that would put us to 1. So that's why I'm not super afraid here. All right, we're going to 5. What is it? You could have played that pre-combat, fool.
Okay, so I think we lead on Massacre because the game is ending this turn no matter what.
There's no reason to pay for it, I think, right? Because if we pay for it, we could lose to like double days. I mean, they put 2 to the graveyard, so they're not likely to have double days. But if they have like Days Force, we would lose to that.
Oh wait, yeah, let's just not even Massacre then.
So let's
we beat Days.
Draw our Pact. And then Thassa's Oracle. Alright, so they're playing Force of Will here, and then they're going to have 1 card in hand. I could think of a... They had Force Days. Let's find out if their last card was any good. I think I'm just going to let this go and not pay the 1, so I don't... if they have Days 4, I think...
I think we play around them drawing blue card or whatever more than we play around Days number 4.
I agree. Incoming Days 4. And we never revealed the Massacre, by the way. Got that sweet
that's a neat little detail.
So you want to
Um,
board out a few days, you said, and then you wanted a Street Wraith and a Force. Is that correct?
no, I want 1 days out, and you can put in a Force or a Street Wraith. I think this is fine. This does illustrate, though, the thing I brought up about Pact of Negation being a really compact, resource light way to defend your combo. This isn't quite the usual Pact of Negation plan of like drawing it out for several turns, but it got us past the Force of Will, and we never had to worry about the 5 mana later.
Yeah, it seemed great. Um, why couldn't this Oracle be a Doomsday? So I think we're supposed to ship this, but it feels really bad. Like this just doesn't do our game plan. Would you
Right.
agree?
To go back to the original discussion, right? Like, could this cast a Doomsday on turn 2? No, and it wouldn't even be close.
I think we're going to 4.
Yep.
The island. Um, I think I put back Edge of Autumn, and I think the Duress. It's either Duress or Grid, but I think it's probably Duress.
Well, I would say we're never winning a game where we don't draw a black source, and it's easier to cast a Duress through their dazes than it would be a defense grid, right?
Okay.
We're obviously like very low percentage on winning this game though, but I think this gives the hand the greatest potential to be good, I guess.
This is a jerk. That was not a draw we wanted. So you might be watching the game right now and be thinking like, Bryant, why isn't Force a card you want? We're already so low on resources that Forcible is just like not a luxury we can afford. Um, so it would have been much better to draw a land there, or like even a Street Wraith would have been better than a Force. So now we have Force blue card. It's fine, I guess. Still need to draw that black source. Max, one thing I did notice that was absent from the deck since the last time I played Doomsday was basic swamp. Why did that leave?
Well, I don't think either basic land is like super good because you're casting a triple black spell into a double blue spell. Um, the thing about Swamp is you can't bounce it to player dazes, and it doesn't help you cast Oracle. It's really only good at giving you a reliable way to cast Dark Rituals and Duresses. If you're playing a bunch of Duresses, you probably should have Swamp. Um, but the basic island enables you to play things like Chain of Vapor, gets you like halfway to casting your Oracle. When it comes to the non-blue decks that pressure your mana base and necessitate basic lands in the first place, it's mostly blue mana that you're going to be needing. So, you can kind of get away with this. It's how you justify playing 14 lands because we're only on 14 lands. If you wanted to get back up to 15, you'd probably add the Swamp.
Okay. Should we Forcible the Sword? It's normally a card as a combo player I don't care about. That said, Doomsday cares about its life total, and we're pretty far away from winning.
I agree. Um, the trickier question is, do we pay the mana to lose to days?
Feels bad. All right, sword resolved. So even if we draw black source, uh, it's going to get wasted. So I don't know how good this dress is. Not feeling too confident about this game.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing here is we're going to get knocked down to 12, which puts us in a position where we'd be doomsdaying down to 6. So if they have like any Esper Sentinel, any Delver, anything like that, we have to win in the same turn, and we're really low on draw steps to put that together.
Yeah, we're never winning this. I'm just gonna auto yield. Ponder. Sure. It just doesn't matter.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Sentinel looked really good here. I'd like to note. I mean, they opened it every game on turn one, but it seemed fine.
Yeah, definitely a punishing card for combo decks. I think it's part of what gives Affinity a lot of the ability to compete with the other blue decks. Because I mean, even if you bolt it right, it just trades off for a card.
Yeah. So unfortunately, Max, we lost round number one, but I'm confident we're gonna win out. And yeah, so stick around. I'm sorry that we didn't get the first match. I'll take the fall for this. Max played perfectly, but we're gonna win. Stick around. Watch us cast some Thassa's Oracles. Round number two. Max, I have no clue what our opponent's playing, but you can't tell me to ship this hand. I will not allow it. This is a turn one Doomsday kill. That's what I'm known for, Max. Like, I like killing people on turn one. Hopefully our opponent's just like basic forest Llanowar Elf. This is my first time seeing Rashad in Dockhand. This is a merfolk that is literally Rashad in Port. Kind of cool. Another Modern Horizons 2 card and another Modern Horizons 1 drop. So I think, unfortunately, we're not supposed to go for it.
Well, to start with, I would agree on keeping the turn one kill hand, even against Merfolk. It's worth noting that because you're holding the LED, you only need one Edge of Autumn. So you can actually cycle the Street Wraith right now to see if you pick up a Daze or maybe a Force. And what you can also do is you can just bait them with one Dark Ritual because you have another. Alternatively, we can ponder looking for like land plus protection or something like that.
So they're going to be tapping down our land in our upkeep, but we just picked up a Brainstorm to cast with that. So I think I'm okay just getting a Underground Sea and casting Ponder here.
Sounds good, yeah.
Another Doomsday. I think we're supposed to shuffle this.
Probably. Like, we could pick up Fetchland Night's Whisper, and the Night's Whisper would give us something to do with our extra black mana. But we already have the components to kill the same turn with LED Edge. We just really need protection.
Ouch. Alright. So we have 4 days, 4 forces, live draws. I guess we technically have the 2 discard spells as well. So we're looking at 10 live draws. And there we go. So this is actually kind of a cool thing. I know Max isn't a huge fan of it, but I really wanted to play it tonight. This is a Doomsday pile where Night's Whisper would actually be reasonable, I believe.
Yes, we can fold in Night's Whisper, but I think because we have the LED, it just makes more sense to play Ideas Unbound anyway, right?
Well, I'm thinking hypothetically, if our opponent doesn't force Doomsday. I'm really hoping they force the Doomsday, though. Okay, thank you for doing that. Because I didn't want to have to figure out how to play around Force with our Cycler. Okay, so we definitely need Oracle. Where's our diamond?
In your hand.
That's where it is. That's where cards are. Okay, so we have the one card we need then. We probably want Ideas Unbound. Unfortunately, I don't think Max is going to let me cast Night's Whisper. It's pretty free to put in the Pact, I think. And then, like, maybe another Cycler. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe we need one more. I'm not sure, Max. Would you put him, like, in a Mystical Dispute? I don't know.
Well, we need a pedal because we're going to play LED cycle Crack for blue. 2 of it is spent to cast Ideas Unbound, so you need at least one more blue. Okay. Since we have this 2 black floating, you could, instead of having Pact, you could play like a Thoughtseize to gather more info on their deck.
I don't hate that.
Because we're going to go down to 7, so we have 4 life to spend on Thoughtseize and Street Wraith.
Okay, so Thoughtseize can go on the bottom. Oracle, and I don't think it really matters as long as Ideas is on top. All right, let's go back to the Infernal Tutor Days, Max. We're gonna cycle Edge of Autumn, holding priority, and then sacrifice the Lion's Eye Diamond for 3 blue. Draw my favorite modern card, Ideas Unbound. Ideas Unbound in all formats. It's probably better to cycle here rather than play out the pedal. Because, like, in theory, they could have, like, a null in hand or something crazy and counter this. I don't know. Alright, so we know that they have Islands Enforceable in their deck. And we are proving without a doubt that we are the better Merfolk deck. Ah, the disrespect. That said, we won with no board, no deck. Which is, you know, kind of a unique thing.
Barren Glory.
So, I can't imagine, like, it would be sweet here to kill them with Emrakul. I don't think that's correct. The only thing...
It is probably impractical and unnecessary.
Yeah.
We saw waste, right? So
Part of me thinks that we should just, like, resubmit and our deck's already fine. Like, we could board in Defense Grid, but I don't think they have that much protection. They are a blue deck, so, like, the Mystical Dispute's probably okay. We could probably take out the Whisper. Maybe, like, this would probably be my natural board plan. Max, what do you think?
I think this is about what I would do. I don't know if Merfolk players are still on Chalices, but I like the idea of having disputes for Hull Breacher, with the caveat that they might also have Cavern of Souls. So that would be a problem. It might be worth our time to find room for Consign to Oblivion, because it's an out to Hull Breacher and it's an out to Chalice if they have it.
Okay. So I don't think they're a Chalice variant. I'm just throwing that out there because we saw Rashad on Dockhand. But Cavern does plow through that. So if I had a guess, I'd probably board out Preordain here, but that's probably not correct. I just don't like a singleton in my deck that doesn't do anything meaningful. But you're welcome to tell me what I should actually be doing.
I think I think signing out the Preordain is like pretty okay. I mean, we're kind of like flying blind here, and Preordain is the least good of all of our cantrips.
Yeah. How often do people wasteland surgical your underground seas?
It's yet to happen to me. I thought that was just like a meme that Rug Delver players did, where they'd like waste each other's trops and then surgical them. But that is like one reason to maybe have a Watery Grave.
So if we draw a pedal, we could theoretically go for a turn 1.
You could turn 1 right now if you really wanted to.
Oh, I guess we could, because you put pedal on top.
Yeah, and then you cycle into it with Edge.
Am I crazy for doing that? Like, would you just go, like, fetch go and dodge waste? Like, I feel like the safer place to just go, like, fetch go, turn 2 brainstorm looking for protection. Like, we don't have to kill turn 1, but it'd be sweet if we did. I feel like they have a force.
I'm not really sure how else they would justify this opening if they did not have it.
Yeah.
They can't even represent like days or a clock because they opened on Wasteland too. We should probably try to go next turn though, just to play around like Cavern Hull Breacher, something like that.
Master of the Pearl Trident. Alright, I'm going to cast Brainstorm. See if we can pick up a daze here. But we don't want to draw Oracle, so... So something we could do... Actually, no, that doesn't work. Or, wait, does it? I think we could fetch Ponder looking for daze. Because we could still Edge of Autumn into the pile with this Brainstorm.
Yes, that would work. I would also settle for like a force and just getting this Doomsday resolved.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I was just trying to think if we could afford the ponder, and I think the answer is yes.
Yeah.
So it's worth noting if they have days, it's live now. But I still
Correct.
think I'm gonna shuffle this. Like it just doesn't do anything meaningful. All right, I'm jamming. Yeah, I don't like this pause. All right. Good thing
That's
we have tons of
fantastic.
lands.
We have so many lands that this wasteland doesn't matter, and if they want to keep on delaying their Hull Breacher drop, that's fine for us.
I'm like pretty confident this is not a chalice variant, by the way. Um, this might be outdated technology, but the last few times I've looked at Merfolk, the chalice list didn't play days. So we saw days and Rashad and Dockhand. All right. So here I'm going to play this and then just brainstorm. So this dodges Oracle. Just get out of here. Come on. Um, Hull Breacher. I think I'd put back Grave here and then Ponder
Fetch
looking for.
for that.
Oh, I was going to say Ponder looking for Dark Rit.
That's good too.
All right.
I think your sequencing is like just fine, like the fetch and all that. But one other thing we can try to remember is that you can use fetch lands to thin out your pile in the face of a Hull Breacher.
Okay. I think I'm going to shuffle this. Like LED is just not really what we need. I guess it would allow us to win next turn.
Yeah, this actually doesn't seem like the worst because we can take the land to play around.
Oh, I already bottomed the line. I'm sorry.
No, this is fine. We can draw a consign and LED also. Consign also soft checks Hull Breacher, so it's all good.
My bad. So we have three
It
cards.
seems like we're gonna have the LED though, so I think this is fine. Like this is the best chance we get at sneaking through a win.
So it's worth noting, like a lot of Merfolk lists don't actually play Hull Breacher, but like the ones I've seen only have two. It's not like it's a four of, but you never know about like people's specific lists. So if they have another Lord effect, we're dead. But they moved it up to three, so it'd have to be like Marrow Regery.
Right. This is a weird question, but like, is there like a Merfolk that deactivates abilities? I keep thinking of something that affects red green creatures, but
Uh,
Thassa's Oracle is
there
blue.
is um, as Flash for 2 mana.
Okay, I'm not a Merfolk expert, so I guess we'll find out if we're losing or not.
It was in the mono blue deck that Alan Burchett won the Pro Tour with, but I can't think of what it's called. I guess it doesn't matter what we pitch because we're dead if we don't win right now. All right, so Oracle, I will now accept you into my home in my life. Um, so I guess we get the Pact again. It's pretty free. We want the ideas. I think we probably want another cycler just so we can go down to 0 cards in deck, correct?
Correct. And then we would need the pedal, so we have 4 total blue mana for Ideas and Oracle.
So the pedal's the one I keep on forgetting. All right, so it's probably free to put Oracle on the, or I guess Pact can go on the bottom. Sure. Edge of Autumn has seemed pretty good this league. With how aggressive all these decks have been, I've liked the non-life loss aspect. Ooh, undo that. Undo. There we go. Like, I thought it was a little weird that the list had two, but it's actually just been delightful.
Yeah, I've definitely been happy with the 2. The downside to Edge is that you can't incidentally use it like you can with Street Wraith, but it pays really big dividends here. And you did do the sequencing correctly of like Ideas followed by Edge followed by Oracle, because I mean we're dead next turn, but in a situation where you're not dead next turn and your Ideas gets countered, you can then draw the Edge, immediately cycle into Oracle, and attempt to win the game the turn after.
Yeah. Well, Max, we've gotten our first win. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. I mean, I think we definitely did bring the better Merfolk deck. The stats were good on the opponent's side. A lot of power, a lot of toughness, but ours literally says win the game.
Hmm. Yeah, no arguments from me. I was going to do like a we had him in the second half meme, but instead we'll just go to round number three. Yeah. Round number three, we're on the draw against Martyr 1207. I don't know why I said it like that, but I did. Max, this mother effing Oracle keeps on going to our hand. That said, we have Brainstorm Fetch. I would actually keep this. Like, we have, a few draws to look for Doomsday. Is that crazy?
Well, I would head back to the original metric of like, can this turn two Doomsday with like a decent to okay cantrip resolving? In this case, we have some extra cycles, but we'd have to like get pretty lucky because we'd be looking for like a Dark Rit or another Petal and the Doomsday because we have like neither half of Accelerant or Doomsday, and we could just as easily cycle into like two more fetches and be like really hating this experience. So I would probably mulligan because like the Oracle's already kind of a mulligan, and this deck is a powerhouse on like 5 and 6 cards anyway.
Okay. I guess that just shows my inexperience because in my mind, I was like, well, even if these are bad, we have Brainstorm to fix it, but I'll trust you. Okay, so once again, no Doomsday. But this seems fine to me. Once again, I don't know if you want to ship it. We do have the Accelerant this time and Protection. So if it were me, I'd probably bottom the Island. Or I guess you could bottom the Edge. Edge might be better.
Yeah, I think this is a decent keep because again, like we have a path to a turn two Doomsday. We can try and ponder our way into it. And in fact, even if you have to settle for a tutor because you have a Street Wraith, you can just immediately get into it and then Dark Rit for it. And we have a protection spell in the form of Mystical Tutor, which is like uh, not like super great, but it'll do, right? Especially if we find the Doomsday turn one, we can come in turn two, Dark Rit Doomsday, dispute backup.
Polluted Delta. So I've played my opponent a number of times in the past, and they were usually on Death and Taxes or Miracles, but it looks like they're now a Delver villain. Um, Max, I know that you've mentioned in the past that Delver tends to be a tough matchup. How do you feel about our hand against Delver?
I would say, broadly, every Delver player gets an advantage from being on the play. So, bad RNG on our part being on the draw. I think this hand was fine. Um, Dispute is a little worse than like any of our other protection spells, but I think this is a hand that can win because it has the Dark Ritual and it has a cycler to break us into the pile early on.
Would you shuffle this just because like the brainstorm doesn't really dig that much deeper? Like you get two fresh looks next turn. I guess if you cycle Street Wraith, it could be a fresh brainstorm. Um, is that worth keeping this?
I'm inclined to shuffle because the brainstorm doesn't see a ton of new cards, and we may need to use this Street Wraith to set up a pile that wins the same turn.
I'm so used to F6ing, and I can't do that with this deck. So if you see me undoing my auto yields, that's why. So we know our opponent has a daze now. So we're on the get lucky and draw Doomsday plan. Alright, so it's blue-red Delver. We probably could have guessed that. The Ragavan card's kind of a pain in the buns. I think I would just pass here. I don't think there's any reason to cycle Street Wraith.
Yeah, I think holding here is fine. I guess what we're going to try to do is hit land 3, Dark Red Doomsday, force whatever their force is, and then cycle into a brainstorm so we can brainstorm while beating their days.
I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. Oh no, because we're never mind. We're not casting dispute. We're forcing. Sorry.
Yeah.
No! Oh!
Oh, wow. That would have been a great card if we could draw it. Maybe there's another one on top.
Oh, what a beating. We're almost dead too. Creature, land, sorcery. So an instant next turn pumps the channeler, so they'll be swinging in for 8. Brutal. Well, I could hardcast Street Wraith and block.
I don't think that's quite where we want to be.
Are you sure?
I guess the out here is maybe just drawing a very good brainstorm because we need to put this Street Wraith back. Oh, we're dead, aren't we?
That locks us out. I guess we could force it, but or we could cycle into days, and then that would put us to 2. And then we don't have a way into the. I don't know. Let's just draw.
I think this is us being dead, but yes, we can find out what our next draw would have been.
All right, so Delver got us. It happens, but we get to board in those sweet, sweet defense grids. All right, so Dispute comes out. Whisper. Pact is probably pretty good.
I would probably cut the Thoughtseize and 1 Force of Will.
Really?
Yeah, Force of Will isn't like a really premium card to have on the play because your hand count is generally like kind of low. You're using a life point, you're using up 2 cards.
Okay. I'll trust you.
And then on the draw, we swap back. We can put in the 4th Force of Will over the 4th Daze.
So I think we're probably supposed to mulligan this.
Yeah. It's really close.
What about this? I mean, we'd be bottoming Oracle, but is this a reasonable 6? Or should we expect a better 5?
I don't think we're supposed to keep this because even though we have, like a turn 1 duress and like a daze and all that, we don't actually have a path towards our Doomsday.
Hear me out. This might be crazy. Isn't it insane to just keep like these 5?
I kind of want to keep Brainstorm over land 3, but I like the idea of just being able to curve Tutor into Grid into Doomsday. So I think let's try the 3 lands, 2 spells.
I mean, we're just going to get hosed by a wasteland, but let's do it. I mean, I think so much has to go right for this hand to win, but we'll see.
Well, we are multi 5, so this hand has the greatest potential to turn into a good hand, which is what I think you want your hands to do when you're on low card counts anyways.
Yeah. So one thing I have noticed as a fellow defense grid aficionado is that with Regavan seeing play, defense grid isn't as good as it used to be versus Delver, unfortunately. Confirm or deny?
I tend to agree. I can usually find it easy to kind of skimp on it a little, going down to 3 or 2, things like that, for just the problem you pointed out, where they just get the treasure tokens. We also need to keep in mind that our pile might have to look a little different because of the Ragavan.
Yeah. Pitching Delver. Okay. We're passing the turn. So we have 1 reveal here that absolutely wrecks us. Actually, I guess we have 2. Alright. That was neither of them.
Well, them hitting our brainstorms, I mean, that's kind of a beating.
Yeah, but it's better than, like, them revealing Duress or Oracle, right?
True, yeah.
Dragon Rage Chandler with Brainstorm is just so good. Getting to surveil away a bad card immediately, and they chose to keep. So now we can pay for days.
Yeah.
I mean, silver linings, I guess. Please resolve. I don't know if they were supposed to daze that. Because that could have been like more effective mid combo. Unless they're like trying to surgical our Lion's Eye Diamond or something, but that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I suppose they could also have Fluster. Okay. So they wanted it for the Surveil. That makes more sense.
So unfortunately, we're going down to 7, and they're representing 5 power already. So there's a pretty high chance that we're just dying to a Bolt next turn. But if this does resolve, we can probably put together some kind of Ideas Unbound pile that picks up Lotus Petal, Oracle, Pact, and then what we do is we just put a cycler between the Ragavan and the Ideas Unbound. That way, whether they attack or not to try and like fake us out, it doesn't really matter.
Okay, so we're getting Pact, Ideas, Oracle, which means we need LED, right? And then we just put like a land on top? Wait, that doesn't work.
You pick a petal, not an LED.
But they're going to take it. Oh, it's petal. Okay.
Yeah, they're gonna pick up the cycler with Ragavan, so they're gonna take our like edge of autumn or whatever.
So why not just give them a land?
Because if they don't attack with Ragavan, you draw land.
I see. That makes way more sense. You're brilliant. Okay.
I mean, I don't think anyone is going to have the presence of mind to not attack with the Ragavan, to play around you playing around the Ragavan, but it's like they can't do anything with an Edge of Autumn, so it's absolutely free to just like give them, what is it, rampant growth.
Okay. That's actually really smart. I like that. Wow, the upkeep bolt brags. Okay.
Oh wow, upkeep, bolt, surveil, pyro. Okay, so they had all the answers.
All of these. Womp womp. Max, unfortunately, we're falling to 1 and 2. We should try to win more matches. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, solid choice. Blue Red Delver, tough matchup on the draw game 1, Ragavan both games. Stuff like that happens. I think we were in like a pretty decent spot against them on our Multi 5. Like we had a lot more equity than I think you would guess for a deck that is known for being bad against Delver and on the Multi 5.
Yeah. Okay, round number 4 coming up shortly. All right, Max, we are on the play for round number 4. Let's see if we can not mulligan into Oblivion. This looks like a mulligan into Oblivion to me.
Well, let's start at 6 and see where we go.
Opponent also going to 6. I mean, I think maybe we keep this and just bottom the Oracle and try to fix this hand with a Brainstorm. Is that crazy?
I think that's fine because you do have 3 lands, which gets you a path to casting a Doomsday, and they're also mulliganing, and you have a force to stop like some weird all-in, so you'll likely live long enough to cast your force, or not your force, your Doomsday rather. I mentioned before that the ideal is a path to a turn 2 Doomsday, but this is a path to a turn 3 with a force of will to back you up. Ideal hands do a turn 2 Doomsday and at least some other thing. When that some other thing is force of will, I think you can value that a lot more highly.
So I'm just going to Brainstorm on their end step. Trop to me says that our opponent might be on Omni, and we can maybe surprise them.
Possibly, yeah. Like Omni or Bant are in that range. So, I mean, so is Rug Delver. So we had the like aggressive option of trying to Brainstorm for a Doomsday, but I do like kind of passing if they're not going to present a clock or anything.
So, I mean, I think that it's sort of nice. I mean, you might disagree here, but if we needed to pitch Ideas Unbound to Force, there's still Night's Whisper in the deck. I kind of like that. I think we're supposed to put back the ideas here because we don't really want to pitch it.
Yeah, and we don't really have anything that benefits us to discard. We may as well set Watery Grave.
Oh, like I wasn't going to get Watery Grave. Like I don't have enough practice playing Modern where you fetch end step for your tap lands. I think now I'm okay with main phase Brainstorm. I mean, it's fine.
Yeah. So we'll be Doomsdaying next turn with like a Day's backup and a Force of Will backup. That's that's pretty decent. If they are on like Show or Bant, we have a Days to intercept a 3-drop, which is a nice way to line things up. I think this is about the latest you could gainfully resolve a personal tutor, and we managed to at least get that.
So Max, did you buy your personal tutors before they spiked into $1 million?
I did not. I was not good enough at this deck to consider playing it in paper, and then by the time I was, the prices went up.
Last time I checked, they were like $75 and still climbing. So it's really expensive if you decide that you're a Doomsday pilot in paper. All right, so we're likely facing a Delver variant here. I still think we could just Dark Ritual Doomsday.
Yeah, I think that's fine. We might just need to do the same kind of mental math of like how do we deal with Ragavan.
Carefully. So is it crazy to just build a pile of cyclers? Maybe we want another land in there because of Wasteland.
Since they aren't presenting a clock, you could try a really slow pile of just going like land cyclers into Oracle plus Pact, under the theory that a third land also stops a daze.
So would you do like one Street Wraith, one Edge?
We're going to 8, and the Edge can be our way of picking up Pact, which we would do on the combo turn. So maybe our pile looks like Pact, Edge, Oracle. We want to land, and then we'd have one more cycler. So yeah, I guess our cycler could be Street Wraith.
All right, so in my experience so far, very limited. I mean, they're all recorded. Pact goes on the bottom.
Yeah, and then Edge would draw the Pact, and then we put Oracle 2 down, and then I think you go land, and then Street Wraith on top in case they dash the Ragavan.
Okay.
Although if they dash a Ragavan, I think it stands to reason that we'd probably want to just daze it and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, they could have third land dash. That's a possibility.
We tapped the wrong duel. If we daze, we're picking up the shock duel.
Yeah. I would like to Shelldock one person this league, so I would like to get paired against Bant in round number 5. Max, can you make some calls, maybe make this happen?
I think, like, every Bant player that I know, but, yeah, we can maybe team effort it. I don't think we've had, like, a really great matchup spread to demonstrate the sideboard here.
So you're saying Merfolk isn't, like, a common deck in the metagame?
We've hit a lot of peculiar tempo options and then like pretty standard tempo options. So I mean, Defense Grid, pretty good card, very on brand for you, but yeah, the sideboard is not really getting a chance to shine.
Lightning Bolt. Ponder. So unfortunately, if we cycle the Street Wraith, we are going into bolt range. Rug Delver is a little bit weird to me. I guess you could argue that they're like trying to go larger, like Tarmogoyf beats Ragavan or whatever. But it's still just like a little bit odd. We're just going to pass here. No reason to cycle. We know that the next card down is Underground Sea. So hypothetically, we could try to go for it the turn after.
Yes. Also, if we get into a situation where we're at a low life total, and
like
they try to right, we can put them in a situation where like we play Oracle, and then they try to bolt, and then we can just cycle until our pile is empty, and then like get them in a catch-22 where like if they don't bolt the Oracle, they would just lose on the spot. But because they bolt the Oracle, we would have the life points to cycle Street Wraith, things like that.
I mean, we're dead to bolt either way, so we might as well jam.
Correct.
Wow, they could have in theory killed us with that thought scour. That's wild. This
Yeah,
person came prepared.
that's good to know for next game. Here I was trying to play around Ragavans and stuff.
Put that on top. And we've won the game against Thought Scour. I think Delver. That was wild. Um, so I mean, I don't know our opponent, but I'm willing to bet that they're Delvery enough where defense grids are okay.
Yep.
Uh,
Certainly, if they're going to try and have Thought Scours to interfere with our pile. Uh, Luckily, again, there's no Caverns. Doomsday passing a turn, really bad against this deck in the first place. So the whole idea that they might make a pile that disrupts or that gets disrupted by Thought Scour is not a concern as much.
so I
Uh,
apologize. I have the memory of a goldfish. What's the last card we're supposed to board out? Was it Thoughtseize?
Against like blue red and all that, yeah, it was typically a Thoughtseize. One thing that I guess we can consider, because they seem to have like we didn't see a Delver, we didn't see a Ragavan. They might have like a bigger mid-rangier thing that we'd want to Thoughtseize to like take an Oof, take a Null Rod, something like that. But I'd rather like confirm that and see for sure. You know, like this is fine to send in because we can kind of play through a collector Oof or something anyways.
If you know that they have oof, excuse me, would you ever consider just like boarding out the artifacts? Like, just admit that you're going to play slow or build like a cycler pile. Um, and then that way you could board in like Force, Dispute, Thoughtseize. I don't know. I'm just like talking out loud here, but that sort of idea.
I think that's like a decent question to ask, but the problem you would run into there is your deck becomes just a lot less worse at beating the entire Delver deck for the sake of being less bad against like their one collector Oof.
All right.
Because
So
with no LED, for instance, you can't do brainstorm piles, or you can't like ramp out a defense grid using pedal if you don't have those either.
I know you're gonna tell me I need to mulligan this, but I want to keep it. Like we
Okay.
have we have the acceleration part of Doomsday. We lose to Wasteland, so that's a bonus. But we could cycle Edge of Autumn. We have a cycler. Um,
Well, this is a cantrip away from a turn to Doomsday, and
uh,
it does other
yes,
things,
Max
right?
is letting me keep.
I don't know why you wouldn't keep this. Again, like the rule of thumb is path to turn to Doomsday does other things. The other thing it does is protect the combo with Pact. And again, you can brainstorm into like pedal plus Doomsday. I think you want to cycle a Street Wraith here
Okay.
because you have a cycler to find a pedal for the second brainstorm. So if you find a Doomsday right now, oh, okay, pedal also fine. Um, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hmm. Yeah, I think we just kind of chill here. We maybe want to play the pedal, so if they waste, we can brainstorm without getting dazed out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like that. If they waste though, I think I'm gonna sack it. Or I'm gonna float a blue, sack to Edge of Autumn, Brainstorm.
That's a teeny bit worse because we wouldn't have a cycler for winning with Doomsday. But I mean, I kind of like that because we do want to really make sure we hit a subsequent land drop.
Yeah, and like we
But
still have another Brainstorm to get into the pile with. So
oh,
you could
that
cast
was really good.
you like we could have cast Brainstorm on the end step. The problem with that is like you're redrawing one of those cards, and if you just like let's say we didn't draw the turn, and you just like let's say this was a blank, you're digging deeper into your deck by waiting till your main phase. There's pretty much no reason to ever Brainstorm on the end step there.
I like the defense grid. I'm guessing that's where we're going.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this was a really good opening turn for us. They didn't apply any extra pressure. There doesn't seem to be a ton else going on.
Thought Scour. Ooh.
Oh,
So that they missed their second land, surveilled a whale land, and then milled two lands. So if we can find Doomsday on our turn, we have a win. Because our opponent cannot interact.
correct.
All right, am I allowed to Edge Autumn here?
Since we managed to keep the pedal, I would say yes, because we we always have the brainstorm to break into the pile. A minor caveat is that like pile geometry is a little different if the brainstorm's in your hand as opposed to being the top card of the pile.
Come on, be good to me, Doc. Doomsday. Um, so I think we're able to put back Pact here, and then second
Could we
ritual.
put back days?
I mean, I think Daze is better than Pact because our opponent's not going to get the 3 mana. Um, I guess they're effectively the same, except it's fine. So we could cast Ideas Unbound as a glorified careful study here. Because like it's just draw 3, look for Doomsday. And then next turn we take, let's say we take 6. We have Dark Ritual, Doomsday, Brainstorm into the pile. So I think we're supposed to Ideas here.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I mean, it's not super palatable because we're giving up our pedal to do it, but we do really want to find a Doomsday.
All right, so we can discard. We still have the 4th C in the deck, so I think I want. And we have Brainstorm, so I think we just do this. Okay. The dragons have not been delirious. They're not delirium. Max, do you remember an era in Legacy where you were attacked by Nimble Mongoose?
Yeah, I started playing in like late 2014, so Nimble Mongoose was still like vaguely in vogue then.
All right, Doomsday. See, easy game. I don't know why you doubted me, Max. I just knew we were going to hit because of that careful study ideas play. Now my feelings are hurt. Shame.
So a minor thing here is that our opponent's been like consistently missing land drops, but one thing we could have done if they were holding up a piece of interaction is we could have not played the fetch land, because then the fetch land could be the card we put back in our brainstorm pile, and we could have kept Pact of Negation.
So we have 4 selected. I think the last card I get's just like a cycler, but it doesn't really matter. It could also just be another petal.
What is your plan here?
Brainstorm into. Oh no, I would need another cantrip, or a cycler would do it, because I need a brainstorm into LED, cycler, and then cycle into ideas. So I would need the edge. Thank you, Max. So this does it.
Yeah, that should work. And then we get to redraw the pact that we don't necessarily need.
So Oracle can go on the bottom. I think that this is right. It doesn't matter because we're casting Brainstorm. Also, for those of you unaware, Max and I are good friends. I was messing with him. I wasn't actually guilt tripping Max. So put these 2 back.
I thought you were going to talk about the undo bug. Pro tip, you can't undo Doomsday piles. So when we're thinking about it like this, it's because if you hit undo while you're piling, the game just completely loses it.
No, I just didn't want people to think that I was actually guilt tripping you. Max says mean things to me all the time on Discord calls. Don't let him fool you as a nice person. So I guess we never needed the pedal. But we
could have like folded in a daze or something, but it's not like super relevant. If we had like a sideboard card that we wanted to hide from them, we also could have done that.
But instead, we won the match. Game? We did. How crazy is that?
Right, yeah. We played the Oracle against their region, and it did not get countered. I love that.
That is true. And then they had the Thought Scour.
Yeah.
All right, we're 2-2, Max. I would like to get the 5th one. Let's see if we can do it. All right. The 5th round, and we are facing Star Monkey. Max, what are the odds that our opponent is playing the most famous monkey in Magic right now, Ragavan? It has to be pretty good, right? Like, Delver's the most popular deck.
There is definitely some synergy there.
All right, so I am prepared to lose to Wasteland right here. I'm just going to go Underground Sea, go get Doomsday, and hope for the best.
Yeah, this hand's a little weird because superfluous tutor, superfluous Darkrit. But if this is, like worst case scenario, if this is Delver, the second Darkrit lets you beat a Daze, and the second personal tutor pitches to your Force to beat their Force. So, weirdly, this bad hand could actually become really good.
You know, not Wasteland. Don't think this long, because that means you have Wasteland. I've already broke my own rule where you're not supposed to say the thing out loud, so I think I'm just going to say it more often to cancel that out. Wasteland. Don't play it. Ugh. It's my own fault. I should have known better.
It's fine. There are very positive Wasteland matchups that we might be encountering. Like, oh, hey, that doesn't seem like the opening of yet another Delver player. So yeah, we're Doomsday here.
Okay, so I guess we just put Petal on the top. I'm an idiot. I was like, but we don't have any mana, but we just put Petal on top and then Brainstorm into the pile.
That is one way to do it, yes. If you wanted to make your pile a little more resilient, you could also build like double fetch land, 2 lands Oracle, because then you don't lose to Swords to Plowshares.
I don't think we're going to lose the swords anyway. Right?
Well, a Brainstorm pile does. Let's see. Is there a Brainstorm pile we can build that draws the whole pile?
I think so. So hear me out.
You draw 3. You put 2 back. No, that wouldn't work because you're drawing 4 cards out of your pile and putting 2 back. So if you cycle into Ideas, you deck yourself.
Is that true?
Draw Petal for draw step. There's 4 left in deck.
We have Night's Whisper.
Brainstorm. There's 1 left in deck. You put 2 back, and one of those you're cycling into. So yeah, I mean, I guess you could crack LED for Night's Whisper, but then you'd have a black floating, not a blue, and you can't cast the Oracle.
Okay.
So you can do a Brainstorm pile and just cycle into Oracle instead of Night's Whisper or Ideas, but you have to accept that your Force has to beat their Swords to Plowshares and not whatever creature they're playing.
Is there a way of building a pile next turn that this is a little bit of a crazier idea. Let's undo here. So what if our pile was like triple Petal? No, I don't want you. And then Street Wraith. So we would draw Street Wraith for turn, cycle into Petal, Brainstorm into these, put back Dark Ritual. I guess we don't have a blue card.
Yeah, so the most resilient way to build a pile would be if we just did like 2 fetches and 2 lands, because then we can beat Thalia and removal spells. But if you want to win next turn, we would do we'd probably do like a Brainstorm pile where we just kind of pick up a bunch of stuff.
I want to win next turn. I mean, I'm going to be greedy. I don't want to pass a bunch against D&T.
That's fine. Then what we should do is just build a pile that uses LED plus Cycler off of Brainstorm. That way we only need to put the Darkrit and TO back and cycle into the TO, and then we can force whatever they play turn 2.
Okay, so what do I want here? I want Petal, I want LED, Street Wraith's already selected, Oracle. What's the last card?
The last card...
I guess we need another Petal.
No, because you're going to cycle Crack LED for blue, and it's going to be Oracle.
Okay.
So the last card can be whatever, because you're never going to see it. The top 2 cards of your deck are going to be the Darkrit and whatever the last card of this pile is. So it can be basically whatever you don't want the opponent to know you have. No. Like, conceivably, you could put, like the Night's Whisper so they don't know you have it, or the Pact so they don't know you have that.
Okay, so...
Probably could have / should have been Pact, now that I'm thinking of it a little harder. Order isn't, like, turbo relevant. We just need to make sure the Petal is the card we draw.
Man, I have become the person that I hate that just like does really long Doomsday piles. I am the villain.
It's okay. The dream here is they tap out for something and then we just force it.
Well, they didn't. Um, so it should have been packed because it's also a blue card for force. Because now we just lose the swords, right?
Well, you can just pass, right?
Yeah. And hope that they tap out.
Yeah. Like they might just be missing their second land, but there's no reason to lose to them having like a random swords to plowshares. Because even if we the next two cards in our deck, I mean, ideally, I said it wasn't turbo relevant, but here it is being relevant because we'd want it to be LED plus cycler, so we can just manually cycle into the Oracle without brainstorm. But with the brainstorm, we never screw up the order, right? So now you can just brainstorm crack for blue, I guess.
Yeah. And now we sacrifice the LED, draw into Oracle, and then we have two cards in deck.
Yep.
Get out of here, death and taxes. Alright, so Massacre is coming in.
You can also bring in, yeah, you can bring in the Consign to Oblivion. From here, the cards we don't really need are like Duress, right? That card's not stellar.
Dispute.
Neither is Mystical Dispute, yeah. And then everything here is like kind of fine. Like Pact isn't super great unless they have Mindbreak Trap, so you could bring in the second Oracle if you really wanted to. But I mean, like these cards are all fine, right?
Yeah, I think I'm just going to
bully
switch
them
this
with your super fast combo.
From what I understand from the few Death and Taxes players that I talked to, is this matchup is near unwinnable for them as long as you play correctly.
Cool. Let's try to play correctly then.
So we are short a Dark Ritual. I don't know if that means like we can also force like a Deafening Silence or a Thalia. I don't know.
Yeah, and we do have the Doomsday. We have a Brainstorm which can find Dark Rit or lands, and we do have Force with a like pretty superfluous looking blue card. It's not like stellar, but I think we can get away with keeping this because we have a lot of extra stuff that can bail us out. Also, the personal tutor can find us a Massacre, which is not at its best because we don't have a basic swamp.
So I'm main phase in case we had Petal, and we did. So lucky. I think I actually put back the Ideas.
Yeah, Ideas is not great here.
And then we could put like a tutor on top in case they surgical.
I think that's fine, yeah.
But like Petal Land was actually secretly nuts. Because now we can also turn 2 Doomsday.
We can turn 2 Doomsday. Another thing we can consider if we have to daze and thus, can't turn 2 Doomsday is we can pick up the tutor and then use one of them next turn to find an Hypervotum.
Would you force this or would you daze? Like, so if we daze, we can't Doomsday. That's the downside. We're drawing personal tutor.
Yeah, I think we can let this go because we can just Doomsday next turn and build like 4 cyclers, Thassa's Oracle or something, right? I guess we need to find a way to play around Wasteland. So we might just want to build like a pile of fetches and Oracle and lands. Because we have counter magic, so we can just slow their clock down.
Get out of here, clock. Yeah, I guess like Doomsday doesn't really care about that card.
Yeah. Oh, actually, we don't even need to worry about a Wasteland on this next turn because we could just build a pile of a bunch of cyclers and then use the LED mana. Because with Damping Sphere, TO would cost 3 mana and LED gives us 3 mana.
TO is Thassa's Oracle for everyone that doesn't know.
Yeah.
So I guess we get Street Wraith.
Yeah, we would go down to, well, we're doomsdaying down to 9. So there's kind of this awkward tension of like, if we made our pile all street race, they could just attack us with the mob, and we can't use our force. And if we put an edge into our pile, we would lose to double wasteland. So we could make this pile like a lot more resilient if we put like fetch land plus island into it, but it would cost us a whole turn.
What would you do if you were playing for money?
I would probably build island plus scalding tarn into the pile because you have a force and a daze. So if they have to like hard tap out to play around stuff, you can use the force to do that.
Okay, so how are you stacking this? Island on the bottom, I would guess.
Correct.
And then
Probably Oracle below that,
and
and then
then
like
turn cycle.
probably cycle Tarn, because if you get really low on life somehow, you can you can reseed your pile of Tarn and just try to get the Oracle of one card left in deck. Obviously not ideal because they might have removal, but that beats losing.
Was there a world where we put 2 lands in to not lose to double wasteland?
We don't lose to double wasteland as is because we'll just draw fetch play it. Then next turn we'll draw the street wraith.
Oh, you're right. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. I forgot about the LED. We even talked about it.
right. And if they go for if they look at our exiled pile and like reason that an LED is somewhere in the pile or somewhere in our hand or whatever, because we have 10 cards that they don't know, if they go into Revoker, we can just force it pretty freely.
Imagine playing Damping Sphere and still losing. Shame. Wait, is this Maverick? You're getting dazed. Um. Yeah, it's probably better to daze.
It's fine either way. Yeah.
So, a question for you: would you play the Underground Sea or would you play the turn? Does it not matter?
I think it's technically better to play the Tarn, right? Because then we can't get double wasted.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
And then on the next turn, we could go cycle, crack fetch, play an Oracle. We beat removal, we beat Damping Sphere.
Was I supposed to play Diamond that turn to help play around that? I,
Well, again, we're only casting 2 spells,
so it
so
doesn't really
TO would
matter.
cost 3 and LED provides it. So I don't really see why we'd leave it out there to get like, I don't know, wilted or something weird, right?
Okay.
And it looks like we'll have uh, exactly enough mana and life that we can double cycle crack fetch and like force if we really needed to, I guess.
All right. So now we draw the Oracle, and then we fetch. We can't force. I guess it doesn't matter, because they're just dead.
Well, what we should have done is play LED, cycle, hold priority, crack fetch, crack for blue. It's a minor thing. I guess it doesn't really matter because we're not beating endurance no matter what. Because it turned out they were Maverick all along.
Oh, we're getting. Ah.
Yeah.
So we just lost.
Is there a way we can do this? I don't think we have enough life. Yeah, I think we lost this one.
Okay. So I imagine we want the second Oracle now.
Yeah. We didn't know it was Maverick. I think game 1 we didn't see anything that would indicate that. So I think we can put that in over. I think we definitely do want the Pact. So what we could remove, it kind of varies. I think maybe the Preordain is something we could afford to lose. And we could also consider maybe maybe Night's Whisper is just not at its best here. But it is like a really fast way to win games.
But is that what we're trying to do if we're beating endurance?
Well, there's more like random lock pieces and like incidental cards than there are endurances.
Okay. Well, I also like that Preordain's a blue card for force. Although I do feel like there's a little bit of egg on my face for saying that our opponent was helpless with their Damping Sphere and then we lost. So shame on me for talking too soon.
Well, when we saw that, we did not see their second or third color, so I don't know if it's necessarily our fault.
I think we're probably supposed to ship this.
Yeah, it has like a lot of potential, but I don't think you keep those hands.
Going to 5. Like I just don't think Thoughtseize is good enough to keep this.
Correct.
So we bottom Doomsday, Oracle, and Prey.
Yeah, I think this is a fine keep.
And I imagine I'm just like main phase brainstorming here. I guess I could
Do we
wait.
have to do it main
I
phase?
guess I could do it on their end step.
I'm wondering if we have to do it before our next turn at all. But
Well, if we hit the land, we can Doomsday enter into, unless it's just not worth it.
well, I mean, I guess we don't actually have like a whole lot of other cards in our hand anyway. There's not really anything we need to like put back. So yeah, I think this is fine. Yeah.
All right, brainstorm. Does this win?
Um, Pretty sure. Yeah.
Can we build a pile that beats endurance?
Well, let's put Doomsday on the stack and see what happens first.
So we probably want Pact of Negation. Oracle. This card. I heard it's okay. Petal.
And then Ideas Unbound, I guess, would be what we're doing.
Yes. I was looking for it, but I'm blind. There it is.
Because we already have the Cycler in hand.
All right. So done. So Pact goes on the bottom. I don't think it matters, but we can put. So I think it's Ideas then Diamond.
Well, we're playing Brainstorm right now, and we're going to pick it all up anyways.
Okay. So we put back these two.
Yep.
Hold control. Sack for blue. Yeah, the pact seems really good for what it's worth. Like, this actually seems pretty nuts. Like, this is a good innovation.
Yeah, I was super pleased with this card. It just does like a lot for you.
Boom! What a sweet pact of negation! Wow! How sweet! I'm taking a screenshot of this. Oh, it's not letting me move my name. But that was awesome. Oh, that was so cool. Yeah, so Max, let's go over the deck list real quick before we sign off.
Sure. I guess it's worth noting that I think they could have enduranced in response to our Ideas Unbound, and then
Yeah.
we wouldn't have won. Yeah.
Was there anything you felt like really underperformed this league? I will say, for me personally, I know I love Knight's Whisper. I don't know if it's necessary with 6 cyclers.
Yeah, I haven't been on Night's Whisper in a while just because it really does seem at its best when you have like multiple Dark Rits to resolve or like really slow control opponents that are just doing nothing. So you have both the time and incentive to resolve the draw two. And when you play against Bant, a lot of what they do is have, early Carpet of Flowers into ramped planeswalkers, so you really can't afford to be putting 2 lands in play and then just tapping out to draw 2. It just doesn't end well. I don't think it's that great against tempo. I would board it out every time. And then a lot of the decks where it'd be pretty positive, like non-blue, I think you're just better served by resolving your personal tutors and getting your combo done and resolved as soon as you can.
So, question for you. I was really impressed with the 6 cyclers. Is there any merit to 4 personal tutor when you have 6 cyclers to just guarantee more Doomsdays?
Yeah, the build I was running like a couple of weeks ago, the first draft I did of like how to play against Dragavens and all was 4 personal tutor, 4 Doomsday, 6 cyclers. I think I mentioned this at the beginning, but I wasn't on Pact at the time. Like that just hadn't occurred to me. But yeah, you can do 4 personal tutor for Doomsday. You can also do 3 tutor, 2 preordain. You can do 3 preordain, 2 tutor. I think those are all like the major variations you would see. I didn't like having a lot of preordains when I did. I think like 1 to 2 is fine. And I think if you switch the preordain in this deck with a 4th tutor, you probably wouldn't notice a huge change in performance. The one thing that I will note is that when I board against combo decks, I board out all the personal tutors. So one thing you might want to consider is like, do I have enough cards to bring in against combo to justify taking out all the tutors? And then, you know, like the mapping just didn't work out right. And having the extra preordains in those matchups to make sure you're hitting your land drops or to make sure you're finding the right mix of disruption and combo elements is pretty important there. So I think like 3 tutor, 2 preordain is like pretty good. 4 tutor is like perfectly fine if you're set up for that sort of thing. And also it just reduces, when you're playing 3 of them, it reduces the probability that you end up with like double personal tutor hands, because kind of like double Chromox and TES, it's just not the best opening you can get.
Can relate there. All right, Max, any final thoughts on this list?
I think in general there's some like competing mindsets on whether you should be playing a tertiary color or not, like if you're playing red or if you're playing green. I tend to think that, you know, the deck is at its best when you're just throwing out blue spells into black spells as fluidly and as aggressively as you can. So I just haven't really bothered with a tertiary color of any sort. I will concede that there's definitely like appealing cards to have there, like Pyroblast's Veil and all that. And by not playing those, you are making yourself like really vulnerable to specific individual cards. Like straight blue black does not perform as well against things like Flusterstorm, Aether Vial, or Hymned Torok. But I think just, you know, doing this really aggressive, straightforward thing makes you better in like a macroscopic way against the whole field, whereas you pick up, or rather, or as you lose percentage points against like very microscopic tactical things like getting Flusterstorm or like Vialed in Meddling Mage, stuff like that. So that's my take on why I just like run straight blue black all the time.
I mean, I'm with you. No arguments here. Well, Max, thank you for joining me. Hopefully, the channel loved having you on. I certainly learned a lot playing this league, and I really do mean that. I feel like I have a better understanding of Doomsday now, so thanks. I really do appreciate that.
Oh yeah, no problem. This was a ton of fun. Thanks for, you know, staying up late, times and was, and these were pretty solid games. You know, representative, I guess, of your, you know, general Doomsday experience. I know we hit a few like weird bumps along the way in terms of matchups, but, you know, I think it was pretty good performance overall. Wish we could have shown off a bit more of the sideboard, but a lot of it's like kind of straightforward just because of the raw power level of it.
Yeah, I really, really wanted to Emrakul someone, but maybe in the next time I play Doomsday, we'll get to do that.
You'll have to subscribe and follow and watch all the videos in case there's a 15-15. You know, you gotta get on there for that Annihilator 6.
Exactly. All right. Have a good night, Max. Cheers, everyone. Take care. Hey, Bryant Cook here. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, but also follow the social media channels down below. If you want to support this content directly, I would recommend going to theepicstorm.com/shop. And if you need a little bit of assistance with the Epic Storm to get to that next level, I would recommend going to theepicstorm.com/tutoring. Don't worry, there's more great content coming right up.